Okay, hello and welcome to the next video where I'll show you a bit more practically how to use Git to track changes using R. And one thing, because just in the previous video I told you about like disappearing Git uh, tabs, right? And you can see, so I just created an empty R project here in a new folder, no files in there whatsoever. And you can see there's no Git option here, right? We have the environment browser, but no Git thing. We have the console here, we have the terminal next to it. And so this is actually a great start to just show if you already created a project, how can you deal with it not being tracked in Git? And the way to initialize, or to deal with this, you first need to initialize a Git repository in there. And repository is a term I'll be using quite a bit here. So basically Git works on the folder level or directory. It's kind of the same, right? But we can tell Git, okay, like this folder or directory, this is what we want you to track. And we do this by initializing a Git repository in there. So repository kind of means that like, okay, now this folder is tracked by Git and all the information in there, like it just, the way you can think about it is just like it turns the folder into a repository. The repository is always like, it's a Git word. So if you're dealing with any like Git project or something, suddenly you'd call that a repository. I mean, I would just keep this as is. There's no need to get more into this, but yeah, just I think good that you heard the name once. So yeah, so you're in your new project. Now you want to track it with Git. You already created the project. You don't have a tab to click here. It's unfortunate. So this is one of the few times we'll actually have to use the command line. So you just click the terminal. I'm gonna open the other thing. It gives me some errors just because of like a weird setup. Don't worry about it. You can just get rid of it. So we see this thing and now we can type in it. Right, you can see here. And if we want to initialize a repository here, we just do so via git init for initialize. You just type it out, you press enter. It's gonna do some stuff and it tells me, oh yeah, initialize empty git repository in blah, 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 name of my folder here. And we can see, I'm wondering, I will need to restart, no, not R, but RStudio for it to detect this. So it's a bit unfortunate. If we restart here, we can now see, so I just refreshed the view here. We can see that it creates an empty .git folder. Can I just click this again to reload it? Oh, I can. Nice. So we just wanted to reload the view. So what I did is I went to terminal, wrote git init, pressed enter to initialize the repository, then went up here and just re-clicked the name again of the RStudio project to reload it in R, because now it detected that it has git initialized in there. The alternative to this would be to just like close the whole thing and reopen it. This was just a bit more convenient, so like don't worry about it. And now we see that suddenly we have this like git thing here. Just because we're still talking about initializing, there's an alternative and easier way of initializing a Git repository in RStudio. And that is by, if you create a new project and you know that you want to do so right away, and this will only work with a new directory. So for this, if you already made the folder, it doesn't work. If you click on new directory, new project, you write your whatever project name, and then you can see here, create Git repository. And then RStudio is gonna run Git init for you. That's all. You just click this box and then you're gonna have this Git thing from the get-go. We don't care about it now because we already created our folder and I don't want to like put too much stuff on my computer because yeah, I have to delete it after anyways. So let's just work in here. Then let's check out the Git. Right. And I'm gonna create an empty R file just so like I would get the normal view of like the 4 quadrants because else I always find it confusing. Personal preference. And we can already see there's something going on here. So it seems that yeah, Git already has detected some files in here. We have all sorts of like options up here to click, and we can have these checkboxes here. So you see if we click the checkboxes, it kind of switches the terminology here. So first, what you see here, so these are the files that Git detected as changed. So these files have changes in them according to Git to the version of it that it has stored inside. And yeah, it makes sense. These files are new. So we have a .gitignore and getExample.rproj. Not sure whether you recognize this. So this is the file that just tells RStudio this is an R project, this directory or folder. And then this gitignore, it's a Git internal or like a special file for Git. So it's called .gitignore. And whatever you write in there, the file name, it's going to be ignored by Git. Kind of as the same name says, right? Like, so for example, if you have something that you don't want to be tracked, like maybe your big data, your big PDF file that you do not want to always track, or like your personal password file or something, right? It could be the case. Then you just write the name of the file in gitignore and it's going to ignore it. But we're not going to focus on this. So for now, let me just click both. And this means they're staged. And so staged means that they are staged for commit. So if I now click this commit button, I will commit these files to the Git history. So that's the most important word actually around Git. With a commit, we take the changes that we have staged here and we kind of wrap them up, make them nice, and put them in the history. And then what the Git history basically is just like all the commits kind of stacked on top of each other. And that's how we can go back and forth in time, right? That's all. I think it's going to become a bit more clear as we now continue. So let me first just, save these. So we have like a clean slate again. So I'm going to commit this. Bam, pop-up comes up. You can see the contents of the files, the changes. So we get this gitignore. There's like some files in here. Maybe we can already see. Yeah, so we see, sorry, I moved this a bit to the side, right? These are the files in the directory right now. We have this R history file, and it's in the gitignore, and that's why it's not showing up here, because Git is just like, okay, I don't care. And this is created by default from RStudio when we create when it detects that you have Git initialized in your repository, it's going to create this file so you don't track like data you don't want to track. And then this is the RStudio project. So you can see this is also a text file, interesting enough. It just has like some settings in there to tell RStudio that this is a R project. Then this is something, and this is the main reason why Git doesn't just work by itself. You have to tell it the message. So this is kind of how you describe this commit. Like all these changes that you just want to save, you have to give them kind of a name, you could say. This should be like a brief spot on message about what you're basically doing here. Good question now, what should I write? Oh, and another thing you can again, you can go back and forth here on what you want to commit. So you can use both of these. This pop-up will always be there. What shall we write? Good question. A standard thing is initial commit or initialize project, our project. And then I commit it. You get like a brief information on what kind of happens behind the scenes. You can ignore that. We can close this window again, and we see it's happy. There's nothing here anymore to talk about. So let's create our R script. So let me first save this file, get the pop-up, my script.r, sure. We don't need to get fancy here. And you see, Git already detected that there's some changes, but let's actually write something interesting in here, right? Let's load the tidyverse, library tidyverse. And now we should do something. When in doubt, I always like to make some plots. So maybe we can use a standard data set, like amount cars, right? That should be a thing, yes. So you can always see me executing everything with Command Enter. So we see here, it's the Mount Cars data set. Let me click this. Let me actually switch to the environment here. So you can see, oh yeah, okay. Because this is like a built-in data set. Let me actually save this to a variable. Because this is built in, R doesn't show it, it's a bit confusing. But so if I now just save this into an actual variable, we can see, okay, now it knows that this is a thing and that it should show this to us. Again, some of the weirdness around R. But we can see our data set here. Okay, I think we talked about this before. Is this like car magazine data set? It's not the most interesting, but I mean, we don't need to get crazy here. So what shall we talk about? So this is, I think, horsepower of the cars and the cylinder. Yeah, okay, let's do a plot of like number of cylinders and like horsepower, right? Because usually more cylinders means more horsepower, but let's see. Is it like a perfect correlation? We shall see. So I create a ggplot with our data. I format it nicely. I create the mapping. So on the x-axis, we want the horsepower. On the y-axis, we want the, what was it? No, we want the horsepower on the y-axis, because that makes more sense, I think. On the x-axis, we want the number of cylinders. I think this was, oh, small hack. You all remember the pipes, right? So in RStudio, God knows why, if you actually pipe in your data to ggplot, which is perfectly fine, like this also works, because it just puts the first argument, which is data anyways, to be the piped in value, right? So this is the same as what I wrote before, but now R will be able to give you, RStudio will be able to give you autocomplete. So if I now write sil and then tab, it can show me, oh yeah, so sil is the column in our data. It's really weird that you need to do this weird way, but I don't know. I'm not gonna judge. This is how RStudio does it, and it's cool that they do it anyways. So we do the mapping. We add a point layer for our scatter plot, and then execute it. And you see, yeah, okay, we actually get like a bit of like a nice like correlation relationship. Okay, so I mean, don't want to go too fancy, so I want to actually commit this version of the changes. So I'll just click the commit, because then, I mean, it's better to like look at it first here, I feel, than like down there. Like this one's a bit useless, I don't know, because we need to open the commit window anyways, right? So we might as well make the decision what to save and what not to save, or to stage for commit in this video, in this view. So here we see our new script, my script.r, and so it has this all these files in here, and we can see our changes because everything is new, everything is green. You'll see later how it actually looks at changes. I do want to stage this. Also, I mean, we can try once. So let me now it's unstaged. Now I have nothing staged for commit. Let me try and like commit. I think it should give us like an error. Let's hope so. Because this is one of the classic things, right? You can like, you might forget to click this checkbox, and so let me just try out what happens if we forget this. What's our commit message? Create schedule plot of mountain cars data. Okay, commit. Nothing added to commit. Yes. So it tells us that, yeah, there's nothing to commit because we didn't stage anything for commit. So we need to click this checkbox. So now we have something to commit, and it's happy. Perfect. Okay, so now I look at this, I'm like, I don't know, it's not that pretty, right? Like, let's add a theme. So let's add a theme. I think this one was always nice. Yeah, that's not too bad. Let's keep it at this. So we have our theme, we go to the commit. Let's look at it now. And now we see, now it's getting much more fine-grained. So it kind of detected, okay, you just did like a small amount of change. And this is exactly what I meant with the detecting changes, right? We don't have the full file anymore. It just sees, oh yeah, you just added this last line. And it does this on a line-by-line basis. So it sees this line also changed because we now added a plus there. So it just sees this like, okay, this line is gone, and these two are there instead of it. So lovely. We add a message, add theme to plot. Perfect. It's all happy. And let's do maybe one last thing. I want to add some color to this. I always feel like, can we? Now these are all like numerical. That's a bit sad. Gear. I don't know what gear means. VM. Oh, whatever. What's this? What's VS? I'm curious. So we can look at the help file for this. I just put like a question mark in front and then executed just this part of code by selecting it and pressing Command Enter. So now we have the documentation for the dataset engine, V-shaped or straight. I have no idea what this is. Maybe it's like with this fancy motor cars from back then or something. I don't know. But let's just put it on here because why not, right? So we color our dots by VS. Let's see. Because this is numerical, it made this like a weird. Nah, that's not cool. So we make it a factor. Yeah, this is better. This makes more sense. So we can see, okay, interesting. So for these like bigger ones, and maybe we want to make this like a scatter plot actually. No, that's not. Let's keep it like atomic. Or no, let's make it a scatter plot, whatever. Let's see. Oh. What? Wasn't it called scatter? Okay, I forgot the name of the geom, and I can't be bothered to Google right now. So I'll just keep it at point. Sorry. Wait. Oops. I'll have to look that one up again. I thought it was geom scatter. But is it like in this case, like you can always just Google the solution. Oh, and sorry that my video overlaps. I just saw. But I think no matter where I put it, it's a bit sub. Oh, maybe I can put myself. I don't think it matters. But so, yeah, we might as well move here. So then now you can see the plot in all its glory. And yes, so let's commit this. Sorry for getting a bit off tangent. And you can see again, Git was really smart at detecting that just this part changed. And it highlights the changes. So like here, the comma was added. So like just these two lines changed. We can stage this for the commit. And you would see like if we change more, it would always just like detect this here and highlight this. So it's really nice to also see what changed. Like, so you don't also make accidental changes, right? What shall I write? Add VS as color to plot. Yeah, sorry, these are not the best commit messages, but I can't be bothered right now. Okay, perfect. So what now? Let's see. First, two more features. So, but this is again, like if you just want to use Git to track your changes, this is all you need. Like we're done. I'm just gonna show you like how to, like what to do with this history now. But this is already like the core loop of Git. This is just it. So you're already like 90% there, which is amazing. But then of course, why do we do all this? So if you click the history button, so down here, history, you get this pop-up. And here you now see all these commits we just made. And we can go back in history. So this is really where the superpower now comes in, right? So you can really see here that like we initialized the file, we added the R script, and now you can see the changes done in each of these commits. And of course, this is still pretty simple, but right, if you have a huge complicated project, it's amazing to be able to go back in time. You can go like just through the whole process. And of course, you need to make the commits. And this is also the reason why these messages are actually kind of important, because this is how you navigate them, right? So you want these to really make sense, describe the changes you made on a high level, so that like later on you can go back in time and check out what was there. And I mean, maybe, I don't know, find out where something went wrong or so. And you can also see, so these changes were all made by me. But if, for example, I mean, there's some repositories where I'm collaborating with Jacob. For this course, for example, we're collaborating via Git and GitHub. And then you can see who made this change. So let me go back here and now show another superpower of Git. So let's say, I don't know, it's late, right? I'm sleepy, and accidentally I marked this whole thing, and I don't know, I want to add some code, like a new geom, and oh no, I overwrote it. I wanted to add this geom AB line, or maybe geom smooth. Geom smooth is actually cooler. And I accidentally saved it because it's late. I didn't have my coffee in the morning. I don't know, who knows, right? It happens. And I overwrote it. The code is gone. If I now accidentally close RStudio or something, I can also go back with Command C. Right now, I could just undo the changes. But if I now close and restart RStudio, which, I mean, that's a bit overkill, or I can do this one again. Let's do this. So I reload the project in lieu of going back. So I think now my Command Z is, yeah. So I can actually undo. Like, I cannot undo this now. Command Z doesn't work anymore because we reloaded the project, closed RStudio or something. And now we can see here, so if we go to command, we can see the changes we made. But we can now also do, and I have to actually see how to do this in R. Yeah. So if I right click here, or I right click in the commit, I think this is the better view because here we actually see what the changes were. So we can see here that it's still in there. It's still in Git somehow. Because it looks at all the changes, of course it needs to know what the previous version was. So my like error here of deleting everything, I can just click revert. It gets me in a pop-up because of course this geom smooth will then be overwritten. I click yes. I go back here, it's all back. I can just delete it again, who cares? I can just do whatever I want. I go back here in the commit or like the normal view, it doesn't matter. I revert and it's all back. And I mean, this is like amazing. It might seem like a small deal right now, right? Because you can always make like a copy something, but I mean, it's much harder this way to like accidentally lose files. And it also allows you to do things like, I don't know, maybe I want to try something out, right? Like, I don't know, instead of the geom point, I want to do like, what is it? We have a geom smooth. Oops. Ah, yeah, okay, I actually need to execute all the stuff because we reloaded R, the whole project. Oops, yeah, it actually failed. What's it called? LM? So we fit like linear models with this. Not sure if it doesn't matter about this, right? So I'm exploring this and I'm like, I don't know, I'm doing like another theme, like a black and white theme or something. And I'm doing all this other stuff and I'm doing some pre-processing with like some mutates and like a select and like, I don't know, it's not that great, right? Like, I don't know, we select everything, sure. Oops. That was what happens if you just try to write like random gibberish code. And I'm like, I don't know, I like the previous version more, right? I can just like iterate, I can just make it, oops. I can just go back here and revert the changes. But the nice thing is I can just explore. I can just go crazy. I don't have to like copy this to like a new file and then like have untitled 3 or something, right? I can just cleanly work in one file. I can just do crazy stuff and I can always go back in time. And that's like really, once you get used to it, it's such an amazing superpower. And of course also to just see the history and everything. Yeah, so that's it for this video. In the next one, we'll talk a bit about collaboration. But yeah, for the course, this will be the main thing. This is just like the core kind of loop of using Git. And even if you don't collaborate with people with Git, this alone already is like really worth a lot. Like just being able to track these changes. It's really, really powerful. Okay, I shall see you in the next video.